Welcome to The Explainer. Every single day, you and we travel on this vast, invisible network. We just take it for granted, right? Well, today, we're going to meet the people who actually build it. We are diving deep into what it truly means to build a career in network engineering.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Every time you stream a movie, hop on a video call, or even just scroll through your phone, you're navigating an incredibly complex system of digital highways. So who are the masterminds who design, build, and maintain all of it? Who are the architects of this invisible world that we all depend on? Well, that's them, the network engineer. They are the unsung heroes, the brilliant minds working behind the curtain, the digital architects who make our connected lives even possible. You know, their work is the very foundation that our global economy, our entertainment, and yeah, even our friendships are built on. And in this explainer, we're going to lay out the exact blueprint for becoming one. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll get a handle on the mission of this modern digital architect. Then we'll spend a day in their shoes and put together the toolkit they need to succeed. After that, we'll tackle the interview process. And finally, we'll look at the entire career path, from your very first day to becoming a strategic leader. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start at the beginning by really understanding the mission. What does it even mean to be a network engineer today? Because I'll tell you, it's a whole lot more than just plugging in a few cables. At its core, this role is really about creation and stewardship. It's not just IT support. Network engineers are literally building and maintaining the digital freeways that everything else runs on. They make sure that data flows smoothly, securely, and without a hitch, whether it's for a bank's most critical financial data or just for you to binge watch your favorite show. They are, quite literally, the guardians of our connectivity. All right, so we've got the big picture, the grand mission. But what does a network engineer actually do all day? Let's peel back the curtain and look at the core responsibilities and the daily rhythm of the job, moving from that big why to the nitty-gritty what. The job really boils down to this super dynamic three-part cycle. First, you're the architect. You design and implement. You're planning new networks, picking out the right gear, and building the whole system from scratch. Then you become the guardian. You maintain and monitor. Once it's live, you got to keep it healthy, right? That means security patches, upgrades, making sure there are no digital potholes. And finally, you put on your detective hat. You troubleshoot and optimize. When something inevitably breaks, you're the one who finds out why and fixes it. But you're also always looking for ways to make the network faster and better. It's this constant loop of building, protecting, and improving. And to support that main cycle, you've got to wear a ton of different hats. You're a security expert, putting up firewalls to keep the bad guys out. You're a librarian, keeping perfect documentation so everyone knows how the network works. You're a diplomat, always collaborating with other IT teams like server admins and developers. And you're also a first responder, helping users and, crucially, building out disaster recovery plans for when things really hit the fan. Honestly, it's this variety that makes the job so challenging, but also so rewarding. So now we know what the job is. What do you actually need to know to do it? Let's start putting together that essential toolkit of skills and concepts that you'll have to master to have a successful career. Okay, if there is one single concept that is the absolute bedrock of all networking, it's the OSI model. Seriously, it takes the super complex process of sending data across a network and breaks it down into 7 logical layers, all the way from the physical wires up to the application you're looking at on your screen. Understanding this is, well, it's non-negotiable. It's the mental map you'll use every single day to figure out what's wrong. It really is the universal language of networking. A great network engineer isn't just a specialist in one thing. You need a really balanced mix of skills. You've got your networking fundamentals, for sure, things like the OSI model and TCP/IP. But you also have to know hardware, the actual routers, switches, and firewalls. You need a deep, deep knowledge of protocols, the rules of the road for data. You got to understand security and operating systems. And finally, a skill that is becoming absolutely essential: automation and scripting. Using code to manage networks is a total game changer. Let's just zoom in on those protocols for a second, because they're the lifeblood of the entire internet. You have to know DNS. It's basically the internet's phone book, turning a name like google.com into an IP address that computers understand. And DHCP, which is like a host at a busy restaurant, automatically giving every device on the network its own unique IP address. Then you have the big routing protocols, BGP, which is how giant networks talk to each other across the entire globe, and OSPF, which figures out the best path for traffic inside your own company's network. Knowing which tool to use for which job is just critical. Now, knowledge is one thing, but you need the right tools to actually apply it. Your troubleshooting arsenal has to include Wireshark. It's a legendary tool that basically gives you X-ray vision into what's happening on your network. You'll also use network management systems to get that high-level dashboard view of your network's health. And you will live on the command line. Simple commands like ping to see if something's alive, traceroute to map a packet's journey, and netstat to see all the active connections. These aren't just tools. They become extensions of your own brain. Okay, so you've built your toolkit, you've got the knowledge. Now it's time to get the job. Let's talk about mastering what can feel like an interview gauntlet, because the questions you're going to face will change dramatically as you get more experienced. The difference between interviewing as a fresher and as a seasoned pro, it's like night and day. A fresher might get a simple definition question, what is a router? But an experienced engineer, they get a whole scenario. They won't ask what BGP is. They'll ask you to design a solution with it, and, this is the key part, to justify why you made the choices you did. The focus shifts completely from what to how and why. And you see this exact same pattern across every single category. For protocols, a fresher explains the OSI model. An experienced pro has to troubleshoot a real-world VLAN issue. For troubleshooting, a fresher just needs to know ping. An experienced pro has to walk through their entire mental process for fixing a complex latency problem. The questions go from what's a firewall to how would you design a multi-layered security strategy? It's all about going from book knowledge to battle-tested wisdom. So you've aced the interview, you landed the job. What's next? Well, your journey is really just beginning. Let's map out that career ladder, starting from a hands-on technician all the way up to a high-level strategic architect. A pretty typical career path starts at network technician. You're hands-on, racking servers, running cables. From there, you might become a network administrator, which is more about routine maintenance and helping users. The next big jump is to network engineer, where you really shift from just maintaining things to actively designing and creating them. As a senior engineer, you start leading projects and mentoring others. And then at the top, you have the network architect, who's operating at a purely strategic level, planning the future of the entire company's network. You can see a really clear shift in focus as you move up. The technician is all about hands-on support. The administrator is focused on daily operations. The engineer moves to project-based implementation, and the architect transitions to pure strategy. The key takeaway here is this. As you climb that ladder, your focus moves from the physical and the immediate to the logical and the long-term. You go from fixing today's problem to designing tomorrow's entire network. And what's really cool is that the ladder doesn't just go straight up. It also branches out. You can choose to specialize. If you love security, you can become a network security engineer, living and breathing firewalls and threat detection. If you thrive on that real-time pressure, a job as a NOC engineer in a network operations center could be perfect. You can specialize in wireless or become a cloud network engineer, a hugely in-demand role working with platforms like AWS and Azure. You could even become a solutions engineer, using your technical chops to help sell complex network designs. The field is huge, with so many different paths to success. So, as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one thought. A career in network engineering, it's just so much more than configuring devices. It's about being an architect of our digital age. Your work is that invisible force connecting businesses, connecting families, connecting entire countries. You are literally building the infrastructure of the future. And that leads us to our final question. The network is always evolving, right? It's moving from physical data centers into the cloud. It's becoming more automated, more intelligent every single day. And the role of the digital architect is changing right along with it. So the question is, what comes next? What amazing new worlds will the network engineer of tomorrow get to design and build? That's something for you to think about. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.